Very nice. Look at that. When is the last time we got to doing our first third and we still had an ash? Look at that. This is what we're talking about when we used to joke about these cigars being rolled by fucking robots. I don't know what it is, but these things are constructed unbelievably. Unbelievable quality control and construction. First of all, the first thing that would capture anybody's attention is the whiteness of that ash. I mean, look how white that thing is. In some areas, it's beyond white. It's so white, it almost has that, like, I don't know, I want to say phosphorus, you know, like it has that fluorescent kind of tone to it. It's unbelievable. Very, very nice, appealing look to the ash, and unbelievable roll right there. You know, there's even a crack. I don't know if you can see it so well, but there's a crack going 2/3 of the way around, and the thing is still just holding there. Unbelievable. So we're getting to the end. We're pretty much done with our first third, and I do sense the cigar deepening up a bit. But our first third, loaded with just heaps of wheat and honey, hints of cinnamon, spice, peppery spice here and there, but kind of very subtle at this point, tones down right away. I don't know if that has a lot to do with the age of this particular cigar. Probably, because I remember these being more spicy, especially the smaller ones. The Americano, which, well, that's not really small. That's more like, kind of like a Robusto or a Busto, maybe a double Robusto. The Orientals, the small, you know, those are great for just like, you know, quick 20-minute smokes. But this guy here, very, very smooth character, you know, smooth smoke. You can even get this through the nose without it being unbearable. It's spicy through the nose, very floral, but you can certainly, you know, blow this through your nose without dying. You know, definitely not as smooth as a Cuban, but then again, nothing is when it comes to blowing smoke through your nose. So like I said, there are hints of like this, it's so sweet, it's almost unnatural. And I like that, you know, I like the fact that it sets itself apart in that way. So few cigars have a profile that you know, they'll have hints of sweetness, you know, or a sweet kind of tone. But this thing is like, I want to call it butterscotch, you know, because there's this caramelly taste to it, but then there's something else. It's not, maybe molasses, you know. But yeah, a lot of different sweet things going on. I would definitely say caramel or molasses, hints of cinnamon, a lot of honey, wheat and honey, and then, you know, your occasional hint of spice, you know, that comes back, mostly at the tip of the tongue. Very, very nice. Very, very, very nice. Without, it's funny, it's like you can hardly feel the smoke in your mouth, it's so smooth, you know. Through the nose, yeah, it burns a little, but all tobacco that isn't Cuban does that. For some reason, I find like you blow Nicaraguan cigars, Dominican cigars through the nose, they burn. You blow a Cuban cigar through the nose, most of the time, it doesn't burn at all. I don't know why that is exactly. Definitely something to do with the architecture of the tobacco, you know, itself, but, or the, you know, maybe the way they process it. Maybe this tobacco, you know, has a higher level of alkalines, which is usually the case, versus cigarette tobacco, which is more acidic, so that's why you can blow one through the nose, not the other. I don't think this thing's going to fall off. We'll see. Oh! Look at that. Well, there you go. So, a little bit more LFD, Flor Dominicana history. Not so much history, because it's a young brand. You know, we don't have all that stuff to go over like we do with Fuente that's 100 years old or anything like that. It's only 18 years old, established in 1996, 2016 will be 20 years. So 2014, yeah, it's 18 years old. Really not that old. Which is why, I'll say it again, it's so impressive to see how far they've come. I think the cigar boom, where so many wannabes came out at that time and used it to their advantage only to end up failing in the end within a year or two, those who embraced it as a time to really get out there and show what they're made of while everybody was paying attention to cigars and do it the right way, it gave them a huge advantage. That right there, the fact that everybody was paying attention to cigars, so LFD did it right in that sense. They had a good sense of what to do and what not to do. And like Cigar Aficionado said, they were willing to listen and learn, which is very important when you don't know what the fuck you're doing. So, where did we leave off? The farm. So, in 1997, only a year after their establishment, they buy a farm, La Canela, in La Canela. And at first, they're growing binder and wrapper leaf only. And they're making cigars like the Ligero series and the Double Ligero series, which are very, very, very popular, some of their most popular cigars. Very strong cigars, full-bodied cigars. And they had the Suave, which was the first brand they released, the first line of cigars they released using a Connecticut wrapper. And they get into so many other things. But, of course, like any good cigar maker would want, eventually, would be to produce a cigar made of only the tobacco that they're growing and they're refining. So that was a major goal. We're getting close to the band. I got to take that off in a second. So he starts growing tobacco, and in 1999 comes to the point where he wants to create his own Dominican Puro, a cigar made of only tobacco that he grows on his farm, that he processes in his factories, and the ultimate symbol of cigar making. For a cigar maker to have a cigar that's all yours, that's a big thing. Especially when it comes to, Dominican cigars, where it's so difficult to grow good wrapper leaf. Now, 1999, he decides to venture out and put this project underway, and 2003, I believe it was 2003, the first Chisel Puros were released, the first LG Puros were released, and the first Chisels were released. Now, here's the thing. You would think, being as hard as it is to grow wrapper leaf in the Dominican Republic, that, it would take him some trial and error, especially as somebody who didn't grow up in the cigar industry, didn't sleep on bales of tobacco like Carlito Fuente did. He was a jeweler. And then he gets himself into the tobacco industry. And in 1999 decides, okay, let's make my own cigar, I'm going to grow wrapper leaf. And bang, 2003, here is the LG Puro, using a Dominican wrapper grown on La Canela. Now, all the tobacco in LG Puro cigars is 4 years old. So that means he would to have success the very first go-around, for this to work. Maybe he had a little bit of trial and error, but it definitely wasn't, years and years and years of planting and failing and planting and failing. Therefore, being as hard as it is, and being as, little as he knows at that point, because he's only in the cigar industry for 6 years, 3 years, 1996 to 1999, he had to have had some sort of inside help on how to grow Dominican wrapper leaf. And there is no better person in the world to go to than Carlos or Carlito Fuente when it comes to that. Or the Olivas. Because the Olivas were actually the ones who told the Fuentes where they could grow Dominican tobacco leaf, where it would work. They sold them the land to do it. So, one of those two people helped him. I'm not sure which, if it was Carlito Fuente, I would say, wow, what a nice fucking guy, because, you know, it wouldn't be considered being a bastard if you didn't want to share the secret with the guy. I mean, here you go. Here's a big competitor who's coming up in the game, and, you know, he's selling cigars on the same shelves that you're trying to sell cigars, and Opus X is a big thing. And one of the main things that Opus X rides on being so rare is that it sports a Dominican wrapper leaf. So, was it him who helped? I don't know. Would I help him if I knew how and I was in the cigar business? And I don't know, man. It depends. I guess maybe, you know, if I was in a good mood and knowing that I'm making so many fucking cigars that, you know, for every one of his cigars there are 30 of mine in a humidor, maybe more, you know. But it could have also been the Olivas. So, not really sure. Don't really know. Either way, it worked, and the LG Puro series was born. Now, this particular cigar is in the Chisel format. I didn't mention it before. I'm sorry. This is a 54 ring gauge by 5.5 inch cigar, 5.5 inches, and it is a Chisel. The Chisel is another unique creation to the Flor Dominicana brand. So this is innovation. This is something else, man. You got to remember now, the first LG Puros and the first Chisels come out in 2003. You know, here's a guy in 2003, he's only been around for 6-7 years in the cigar industry. And he's coming up with all this stuff. Now, the Chisel was wildly popular when it first came out. And it's still popular today because it was something new. But not only was it something new, it was something that worked. You know, it wasn't just another one of these fucking things that people try and it's just like, oh, come on already, you know? How many ways can you roll a cigar? But this was something that had never been done before, and it almost seemed like something that when I first started smoking them, saying to myself, why didn't they think of this before? It seems so simple. I mean, yeah. Don't want this baby going out. One of the main reasons that caused Litto Gomez to create the Chisel was, well, here's how the story goes as far as on so many different places on the web and what he says himself in some sort of interview with Cigar Aficionado. I forget where I read it, but I remember it. He was driving home, smoking a torpedo-shaped cigar and chewing on it, and realized all of a sudden how comfortable the cigar felt in his mouth, you know, and it led him to develop a cigar with a shape similar to that. And truth be told, it's very comfortable to smoke. Now, I will be honest. One thing I don't like about the Chisel shape is, and if you've watched my other videos and you know me, then you know this, is it cuts off the amount of filler exposed in the mouth, which reduces the amount of flavor you get from that filler. Filler plays a very important part in the flavor of a cigar. There's a lot of flavor you find in the filler, you know, that just isn't present in the smoke itself. You know, so this cigar in particular right here, at the pre-draw, good amount of flavor. Lighting, good amount of flavor. But right now, as I'm smoking it, I'm getting less and less flavor from the filler, although the smoke is picking up and it's getting quite interesting, and we'll talk about that in a minute after we get to our second, third review. But that's why I guess they make other shapes, you know. Personally, I'm not the kind of person who would buy a Chisel very often, if at all, but it is a unique invention that I admire because it's something that, it's so simple. It seems like with all the cigar shapes out there that it's something that somebody would have said, you know, somebody would have thought of before, but nobody did, except Litto Gomez. And maybe, you know, that's his kind of gift to the cigar world, cigar industry, and maybe it comes from his experience as a jeweler with so many different shapes of things, and, you know, whatever it came from, it's a very cool invention. It's something that really really sparked some excitement in the cigar industry because it was something new. You know, something really, really new. And like I said, something that worked. It all happens in 2003. The LG Dominican Puro comes out, the Chisel Shape comes out, you know, and he's riding high. And of course, since then, there have been a lot of other releases, special cigars. We've had the Airbender, which did very well the year it came. I believe the year it came out, it was third best cigar of the year. I remember when it came out. It was either, oh God, what was it, 2011 or 2012? Something like that. One of those years. And the year it came out, it was like the number 3 cigar. Which brings me, I don't believe LFD has ever taken a number 1 spot yet. But number 3 ain't fucking bad, you know, and they will get there. They will get there. This cigar has so many similarities to Opus, it's not funny. You know, just the overall flavor, the overall tone to it, very, very similar. The fragrance, the aroma I'm getting right now, very nice aroma, very, very similar. And it's delicious. It's a great, great smoke. I would say that this is not particularly strong. It's not as strong as I expected it to be, being the Litto Gomez Puro, you know, Dominican Puro, and being that so many other LFD cigars are so strong. You got your Ligero, your double Ligero, all that kind of stuff. I would say it's medium full. You know, I don't know if I'd put full on it. Maybe fresh, it would be a little more full. But this one is 2009, so with 5 years on it, it's definitely, maybe, I don't know, maybe it lost some strength. Maybe it's just, you know, not as strong as I thought it would be. But definitely flavorful, you know, definitely flavorful. So, that's about it for history. We talked about his farm. We talked about the Chisel Shape, the Puro, him coming into deciding to create a Dominican Puro and growing wrapper leaf at his own farm that he bought, La Canela. We can take a look at some of the other cigars that they produce, because they do produce quite a few lines of cigars, and I'll introduce a few of those. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about the second third here, because we're getting into it. Definitely big pickup in depth. It's funny, as soon as this ash fell off, the very next pull I noticed it. Now, of course, as we discussed before, much of that has to do with the amount of heat and oxygen combusting, you know, the amount of oxygen in combustion with the lit foot of the cigar, causing a significant increase in heat, which causes a change in flavor. So it's not only the tobacco, much of it has to do with that. But I've noticed a pickup in depth. You're getting some more leathery flavors, almost a bit of a bullion-y taste. You know, I wouldn't quite call it meaty like Nicaraguan cigars tend to be, but it's a bit of a bullion-y taste. A lot of the sweet notes are still there. I'm still getting a lot of wheat and honey, so that's all very good. I'm getting a very cottony feeling in the mouth at this point, which tells me that most likely, according to so many things, that the tannins in this cigar are still quite high, which means it has a long, long life of aging ahead of it. Well, not this one, but if it was not being smoked, it would be good to age for very, very long. Nice smoke, not too wispy, not too creamy, somewhere right in the middle, you know. Big thick clouds, great draw, easy draw, slight resistance. Overall, great cigar. Tiny bit of spice here and there, but nothing like when I first lit it, you know. But it's good. Hints of honey, cinnamon, very flavorful, very enjoyable to smoke. Easy and enjoyable to smoke. A worry-free cigar.
Say goodnight, Max.